Dear students, do you know why silk fabric is so popular and expensive to buy? Why is silk regarded of high value and considered as a status symbol of royal elegance? Why do people in India flock to buy silk during festive seasons? Let us go through this topic to understand the basics of sericulture. In India, silk is a way of life. Over thousands of years, it has become an inseparable part of Indian culture and its royal tradition. No ritual is complete without silk being used as a wear in some form or the other. Because of its unique softness and luster, silk is highly valued by the fashion industry. It has established a benchmark of luxury and wealth. For sericulture, mulberry cultivation is essential. So, in this session, dear students, we will discuss in detail on mulberry cultivation. Mulberry cultivation is also known as Sericulture. Mulberry plant utilized for commercial production of the silkworm species, that is Bombyx mori. Mulberry leaf protein is a source of silkworm to biosynthesis the silk, which is made up of proteins like fibrin and sericin. Nearly 70% of the silk proteins is directly derived from the proteins of the mulberry leaves. This mulberry plant is a hardy plant capable of thriving under a variety of agroclimatic conditions. At the same time, it is also sensitive, responding extremely well to optimum agricultural inputs, but showing practically no growth when plant nutrients and moisture begin to operate as a limiting factors. This is evident from the fact that under poor rainfall conditions of 625 to 750 millimeter that is prevailing in South India, the current leaf yield of mulberry is of the order of only 3000 to 3500 kilograms per hectare, whereas under assured irrigation and appropriate fertilizer application, it can be increased up to 30,000 kilograms or nearly 10 times. Further, mulberry under South Indian conditions, unlike in temperate regions like Japan, Korea and USSR, gives continuous growth almost throughout the year because of optimum temperature conditions and good sunshine available. This mulberry plant can grow practically on any type of land except on very steep lands. Good growths, however, are obtained when it is raised on either flat land or gently sloping or undulated lands. On more slopy or steep plants, necessary attention to proper soil conservation methods like contour drains, contour planting or even bench terracing should be given. Mulberry grows in a wide range of soils, but best growth is obtained in loamy to clayey loamy soils. Mulberry can tolerate slightly acidic conditions in the soil. In the case of too acidic soils with pH below 5, necessary corrective measures through the application of dolomite or lime should be adopted. In case of alkaline soils, application of gypsum should be resorted for correction of the soil alkalinity. Since mulberry is a deep rooted plant, the soil should be sufficiently deep up to about 2 feet in depth. In respect of elevation, mulberry thrives well up to about 4000 feet. Above growth will be retarded because of the cooler temperature. The mulberry species Morus is believed to be a native of the lower slopes of the Himalayas, either in India or in China. Towards the year 2800 BC, Qin Nong, one of the successors of Emperor Fo He, taught cultivation of mulberry in China. Now, mulberry is being cultivated in 29 countries. In different regions, different varieties of mulberry are being cultivated. There are about 68 species of the genus Morus. The majority of these species occur in Asia, especially 24 species in China and 19 in Japan. Continental America is also rich in its Morus species. The genus Morus is poorly represented in Africa, Europe and the Near East, and it is not at all present in Australia. In India, there are many species of Morus, of which Morus alba, Morus indica, Morus serrata and Morus levigata grow wild in Himalayas. Several varieties have been introduced belonging to the species Morus multicollis, Morus nigra, Morus sinensis and Morus philippinensis. Most of the Indian varieties of mulberry belongs to the species Morus indica. But in China, there are 15 species, of which 4 are Morus alba, Morus multicollis, Morus atropurpurea and Morus mizuho. They are cultivated for sericulture. In the former Soviet Union, Morus multicollis, Morus alba, Morus tartarica and Morus nigra are being cultivated. Though the mulberry cultivation is practiced in various climates, the major area is in tropical zone covering Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu states with about 90% in India. In the subtropical zone, West Bengal, Himachal Pradesh and northeastern states have major areas under mulberry cultivation. Here there is no unanimity in the classification of genus Morus into species, but there are 4 common species of the genus that occur throughout India. They are Morus alba, Morus nigra, Morus latifolia and Morus levigata. Apart from these species, Morus indica and Morus serrata also grow in the Himalayan ranges. The mulberry varieties differ in different regions. They are suitable to be grown in South Indian states or like Kanwa 2, S13 and S34 being recommended for rain-fed region with a rainfall of 500 to 800 millimeter in the regions of South India comprising of Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. Coming to the first variety, that is Kanwa 2, this species belongs to Morus indica and it is a diploid widely being cultivated in southern India. Selection from natural population of variety Mysore local variety, and the inflorescence female with profuse flowering and with many soroses. The production characteristics like leaf maturity, it is a medium leaf maturity yielding about 30 to 35 tons per hectare per year under irrigated condition, and the moisture content in the leaf is of about 70% and protein content of 21% and sugar content of 11.5%. It has high rooting ability of 80% with wide adaptability. It is also resistant to leaf spot and moderately resistant to leaf rust and powdery mildew diseases. Next to Kanwa, another variety, that is S13, belongs to species Morus indica. It is a selection from open pollinated hybrids of Kanwa 2. It is highly recommended for rain-fed areas of South India during the year 1990, and the male inflorescence with profuse flowering, and it yields about 8 to 12 tons per hectare per year under rain-fed conditions depending on the rainfall. Here the leaf moisture content is of about 70.6%, protein content 24.3% and sugar content of 13.8%. This variety is resistant to leaf spot and powdery mildew disease and also moderately resistant to leaf rust infestation. Another variety called S34 belongs to Morus indica, and it is diploid, and it is recommended during 1990 for rainfed areas with black cotton soils of southern India. Inflorescence male with profuse flowering and occasionally few sorosis, and the yield is of about 15 tonnes per hectare per year under rainfed condition. In this variety, the moisture content in leaf is of about 70%, crude protein content is 23.7%, and soluble sugar content is of 13.2%. This S34 variety is resistant to powdery mildew and leaf rust disease, and also moderately resistant to leaf spot disease and susceptible to tick infestation. Now, let us discuss on the morphology of the mulberry plant. This mulberry plant belongs to the family Moraceae. The characteristic feature of this family is the presence of idioblasts on the leaves. Mulberry plant is a deep-rooted perennial plant with highly branching root and shoot systems with primary, secondary and tertiary branches. Normally it grows into a tree, but in cultivation it is raised as a middling or bush by pruning methods. The color of the bark of the stem varies from green, grey to pink or brown, and has a number of lenticels which are important for the classification of mulberry varieties. Each node bears a bud and two accessory buds. These axillary buds are green at first and turn to brown later on. These are two types of buds, namely vegetative buds and reproductive buds. These vegetative buds gives rise to vegetative parts of the plants like leaves and branches, and the reproductive buds gives rise to male and female inflorescence in addition to leaves. Coming to the leaf characteristics, the leaves are simple, alternate or stipulate and petiolate. They may be entire or lobed, but rarely both types are found in same plant. The leaves may be glossy or scabrous in texture. Coming to the leaf tip or apex characters, they may be long, cordate or acute. Leaf margin also vary. They may be acute or crenate or serrate or dendate. The base of the leaf may be straight, shallow, deep and overlapping. The reproductive part, that is the inflorescence of mulberry, is called a catkin or spike. The flowers are usually unisexual and trees may be monoecious or dioecious. The male catkin flower is usually longer when compared to the female catkin. The male flower has 4 perions and 4 stamens. The stamen is composed of anther and filaments. Coming to the female flower, it has a pistil and 4 perions. Pistil is composed of stigma, style and ovary. After pollination and fertilization, the entire inflorescence becomes a multiple or aggregate fruit. So, the common mulberry is a handsome deciduous tree with the 10 to 25 meter tall of rugged, forming a dense spreading head of branches usually wider than the height of the tree, springing from a short and rough trunk. So, some of the characters decides the leaf yield of the mulberry plant. They are, as the internodal region of the mulberry plant increases, the yield also tends to decrease, and the leaf area and the lobation increases, the yield also gets increased. The lobation of the leaf and yield are negatively correlated, and the leaf weight per unit area is positively correlated with the yield. Normally, for the better leaf yield, the leaf shoot ratio should be 40:60. The weight of the leaves should be higher and that of shoot should be lower. More number of branches will obviously result in higher yield. Coming to the genotypes in mulberry. Although the sericultures in hilly area are successful, In obtaining a quality mulberry leaf, harvests are often inconsistent and untimely, rarely reaching the expected potential. So, the stability of the leaf yield in mulberry across a range of environments is very important, but to attain it, it is a challenge to the breeders. It refers to the genetic buffering capacity of a genotype to environmental fluctuation. In other words, we can say it is the ability of the genotype to withstand the environmental fluctuation. A more homeostatic genotype is one that shows less variation in phenotypic values under different environments. This phenotypic variation comprises of three important variables. They are genetic, environmental and genotype and environmental interactions. This genotype and environmental interaction exists where the relative performance of the varieties changes from environment to environment. But this genotype and environment interaction is a major problem in getting a reliable estimate of heritability, and it makes it difficult to predict the rate of genetic progress and a selection for given characters with greater accuracy. A perfectly stable mulberry genotype will not change its performance from environment to environment. However, perfectly stable genotypes probably do not exist, and plant breeders have to be satisfied with obtainable level of stability. So, the performance of the genotypes differ in various environments, and due to this genotype and environment interactions, such a differential response to different environments makes it difficult for breeders to decide which genotype should be selected. Hence, genotype possessing less amount of interaction with varying environment has to be identified. Further, stability of the yield is the expression of consistency of yield components. So, the response of the yield components to various environmental conditions is particularly important for the determination of their stability. The evolution of such stable cultivars will be based on the genotypes which have high stability for one or more qualitative or quantitative traits. Till now we have discussed in detail on the morphology and the genotypes of mulberry plants. Now let us go to know about the various ecological requirements for mulberry cultivation. These requirements includes climate, rainfall, soil and temperature. Coming to the climate requirement, the optimum elevation for mulberry growth is about 700 meter above the mean sea level, and for cultivation purposes an elevation of 300 to 900 meter above mean sea level is the optimum range. The ideal temperature requirement is 24 to 28 degrees centigrade and relative humidity is 65 to 80%, and sunshine duration is 5 to 12 hours per day, and mulberry cannot sprout below 13 degrees centigrade or above 38 degrees centigrade. The rainfall requirement ranges from 600 millimeter to 2500 millimeter per year, and it is considered to be ideal. During the growth period, mulberry requires 280 to 400 milliliter of water to synthesize 1 gram of dry matter of leaf. As far as soil is considered, as the mulberry plant is a perennial and deep-rooted plant, soil structure must be sufficiently porous to supply the air and water to the root zone. Soil should be deep, fertile, well drained with good water holding capacity. Loamy, clayey loamy or sandy loamy soils are the best. Slightly acidic soils with a pH of 6.2 to 6.8 free from injurious salts are ideal. The quantity of gypsum or lime to be applied in different cases vary with the available pH of the soil. For example, the gypsum requirement to bring down the pH from 7.4 to 7.8 to 6.8 pH, gypsum requirement is 2 tonnes per hectare. Similarly, 5 tonnes for 7.9 to 8.4 pH and 9 tonnes for 8.5 to 9 pH and 14 tonnes per hectare for the soils having 9.1 and above pH. Similarly, in case of lime application, For the plain soils, in the sandy soil type, application of lime should be 1.25 tonnes, and for sandy loamy 2.5 tonnes, for loamy 5 tonnes, for clay loamy 7.5 tonnes per hectare. But as far as hilly areas is concerned, in sandy soil type, lime application should be 2.5 tonnes per hectare and 5 tonnes for sandy loamy, 7.5 tonnes for loamy and 8.75 tonnes for clay loamy soils. How it has to be applied? Powdered gypsum or lime has to be mixed well with the garden of soil and irrigated to stagnation for 48 to 72 hours. Later, the water is leached out by drainage and then it will be dried. The white mulberry variety and to a lesser extent the red mulberry are quite tolerant of drought, pollution and poor soil condition. Black mulberry variety is more fastidious, faring less well in cold climates or areas with humid temperatures. For mulberry, temperature requirement is essential. It grows well in temperate areas but loses its leaves in the winter season. The white mulberry is the most cold hardy of the three species, although this varies from one clone to another. Red mulberries are hardy to sub-zero temperatures, but the black mulberry is the least cold hardy of the three, although again the cold tolerance seems to depend on the particular clone. In the tropical region, it grows all year round. The mulberry requires full sun for good production, and maximum yields in Costa Rica have been obtained in areas with plenty of sunlight. Now let us discuss in detail on the establishment of mulberry under rain-fed condition. For the establishment of mulberry, particular spacing has to be followed while planting. The spacing commonly followed for rain-fed mulberry garden is 90 by 90 centimeter with the pits of 35 by 35 centimeter size. The farmyard manure application or requirement is 1 kilogram per pit. Regarding stakes and planting, the branches of 8 to 10 months old should be used for the preparation of stakes of 22 to 25 centimeter length with 5 to 6 healthy buds. 3 stakes are planted per pit in a triangular form with the spacing of 15 centimeter, leaving only one bud exposed above the soil surface. If the planting is done with the saplings, then one sapling is sufficient per pit. The planting should be done during June or July after the onset of the monsoon. During the first year, the intercultivation should be done manually. Once the mulberry plants are established, the bullock ploughing can be carried out. Regarding the fertilizer application, nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium requirement is 50, 25 and 25 kg per hectare per year, that too applied in 2 doses. First dose Sufala with 15, 15, 15 of NPK, that is 167 kilograms after 2 months of the planting. The second dose with urea of 55 kilograms or ammonium sulphate of 125 kilograms at the end of the September or early October before the cessation of the monsoon rains. Coming to the yield or leaf harvest, the first crop should be harvested 6 months after the plantation when the mulberry is well established. 2 more crops are harvested during the first year by the leaf picking method. Mulberry plant should be pruned only after 1 year at the onset of the next month. Pruning is done by sharp sickle or pruning saw at a height of 25 to 30 centimeter from the ground level. Green manuring and mulching also can be followed in the rain-fed mulberry cultivation. Green manure crops can be grown as an intercrop with mulberry during the monsoon season only. The green manure crops like cowpea, horse gram, daincha should be incorporated into the soil by ploughing before the flowering starts and well before the rain ceases. Subsequently, plots may be mulched with any dry material or plants that will not cause needs. So, let us know the maintenance of the mulberry under rain-fed condition. second year onwards. So, let me list out some of the recommended inputs for 1 hectare for 1 year for the mulberry gardens being maintained under the rainfed conditions at a spacing of 90 by 90 centimeter. Initially, the farmyard manure or compost of 10 tonners has to be applied in a single dose at the onset of monsoon. Then the biofertilizer, namely the acetobacter, can be applied during the rainy season, that is 4 kilograms per crop, that too twice a year. And the VAM, that is vesicular arbuscular mycorrhizae, a biofertilizer, can be applied with the rate of 200 kilograms of soil based inoculum in the nursery to raise a requisite amount of saplings to plant 1 hectare of land. Once this VAM is inoculated in the nursery, no more inoculation is required in the main field. And for the first crop, the fertilizers like Sufala of 167 kilograms and single superphosphate of 156 kilograms and muriate of potash of 42 kilograms can be applied. But in the third crop, urea has to be applied at the rate of 55 kilograms and green manuring of 15 kilograms. The crops like horse gram, cowpea, sun hemp and daincha should be incorporated into the soil by ploughing before flowering and cessation of the monsoon. Coming to the yield or leaf harvesting, the yield varies with the different varieties, but the expected yield of leaf for different varieties like Canva 2 is 10 to 12 tonners per hectare per year, and for the varieties like S13 and S34, the leaf yield is of about 14 to 15 tonners per hectare per year. So, till now we have discussed in detail regarding the morphology of the mulberry plant, the genotypes, different varieties and also the cultivation practices. Now, let me explain the uses of the mulberry plant. Mulberry has wider uses. Let us know about the prominent uses of them. Mulberry leaves have been the traditional feed for the silkworm. There is evidence that sericulture started about 5000 years ago and hence the domestication of mulberry is possible. The main use of mulberry globally is as feed for the silkworm, but depending upon the location, it is also appreciated for its fruit that is consumed fresh or in juice or as preserves, and as a delicious vegetable, that is young leaves and stems, and also for its medicinal properties in infusions, that is mulberry leaf tea, and also used for landscaping and as animal feed. There are several places where mulberry is utilized traditionally as a feed in mixed forage diets for ruminants. The berries of the mulberry plant are called soroses have been extensively used in traditional fabric dyeing. Purple and red are common colors. They are produced by the mulberry plant and it is traditionally used to dye wool. Mulberry is also well suited for use as a fodder crop, where it can be grown opportunistically around the house compounds or spare pieces of land and along the field edges too. The system recycles the resources, reduces the organic pollution and combines fish farming with mulberry cultivation for raising the silkworms. The pond silt is used as fertilizer for fodder crops, which can in turn be used to feed livestock, poultry and fishes. So, in this session, dear students, we have discussed about the mulberry, its varieties and morphology. We also discussed about the proper genotypes and the various ecological requirements of mulberry plant's growth. Finally, we cited the uses of the mulberry, and to summarize, mulberry is a fast growing deciduous woody perennial plant. It has a deep rooting system. The leaves are simple, alternate, stipulate, petiolate, entire or lobed, and the number of lobes in leaves varies from 1 to 5. Plants are generally dioecious and inflorescence is catkin with pendant or drooping peduncle bearing unisexual flowers. Inflorescence is always axillary and male catkins are usually longer than the female catkins. Male flowers are loosely arranged and after shedding the pollen, the inflorescence dries and falls off. These are 4 persistent perianth lobes and 4 stamens inflexed in the bud. Coming to the female inflorescence, it is usually short when compared to male inflorescence and the flowers are very compactly arranged. There are 4 persistent perianth lobes and the ovary is one-celled and the stigma is bifid. And in mulberry, the chief pollinating agent is wind. Mulberry fruit is a sorosis, mainly violet black in color. Most of the species of this species genus Morus and cultivated varieties are diploid with 28 chromosomes. However, triploids are also extensively cultivated for their adaptability, vigorous growth and quality of leaves. Mulberry is widely used traditional folk remedy used for curing asthma, bronchitis, bug bite, cold, constipation, cough, debility, diarrhea, dropsy, dyspepsia, edema, epilepsy, fever, headache, hyperglycemia, hypertension, inflammation, insomnia, melancholy, menorrhagia, snake bite, sore throat, stomatitis, tumors, vertigo and also wounds. These mulberry twigs are also used for making baskets, the sticks as bean poles and wood for fuel wood and sporting goods and fine furniture. In Japan, the traditional chashaku green tea scoop are being used in semi-formal tea ceremonies is made of mulberry wood. If it is not mulberry, then it is only an informal one.